Hi, I'm Charlie from UCAS, and today's recording is going to give you a bit of a run through of things to be aware of at the moment. I'm going to briefly cover um, decisions that your students can receive on their application. I'm going to talk through replies that the students can make. I'm then going to focus a little bit about UCAS Extra, what this is, what this means, and how it can be used, and just give some general kind of hints and tips and best practice advice around supporting students through the process. For the purposes of this session, I'm not going to be using a PowerPoint. I'm just going to be talking for a couple of minutes through the various things. But what I will do is I will provide access to a PDF resource which contains information and support to help you with this. So as you can see from the screen here, I'm going to go through, and the resource will have links to the various things which I mentioned. So you'll get access to this shortly after you get access to this recording. So no presentation, but this resource is there with all the information that you need to support your students over the next few months. And there's also here at the bottom of the handout that you'll receive contact information for UCAS for both our student-facing and teacher-facing services. So please do use these if you need to. So, sorry, just stop sharing the screen. And then I'm going to go through and talk you through, first of all, start with decisions. So as I'm sure you're aware, once an application has been submitted through UCAS, universities and colleges will receive that application, and then they'll make one of three decisions based on the information that they receive. So the three different decision options are an unconditional offer, a conditional offer, or an unsuccessful decision. Now, universities and colleges will holistically review all applications they receive, considering all of the details before they make one of these decisions. Before I go on to explain what the different decisions are, I think it's really worthwhile just highlighting that universities and colleges, most of them will have their own admissions policies, which can vary hugely in their detail and their scope, but usually they're very good at giving an indication of how they, at that institution, make a decision. Some universities will have separate policies for each school or faculty, and the level of detail contained in each of these policies can vary significantly. But what I would say is if you are, really unsure about how a decision was made, or you're not sure about thought processes, these are really good places to have a look and review. In some admissions policies and statements, some providers might talk about the kind of weighted that they'll put on a personal statement or academic achievement. And as I said, this can vary significantly depending on the course at an individual university, and so it can vary quite significantly from a history course to a French course at the same university or college. Thinking quickly then about the types of decisions that your students will receive, they can receive an unconditional offer. This is where the university is happy that the student has met or meets the entry requirements, or for another reason they've decided that they don't want if a student's still taking qualifications, they are happy to offer their student a place on the course before they've seen their level 3 attainment come through. Students who receive unconditional offers are often required to provide additional information. They might need to go through additional checks. So they need to make sure that when students accept an unconditional offer, they fully understand all of the parameters and all of the things that's required of them before doing that. The vast majority of your students who are currently studying qualifications will receive a conditional offer, and these show the conditions of an offer that the student is required to meet before they'll get their place confirmed at university. For most people, this means waiting for results day in the summer. This summer is Tuesday, the 10th of August, to see if the results that they get meet the conditions of offer. Some students might receive a conditional unconditional offer. This is where a university or college will say that they'll make the offer unconditional if they put them down as their first choice. It's also worthwhile noting that just because a student has a conditional offer, just because they don't meet the explicit conditions set out in the conditional offer, doesn't mean that they'll get rejected. Universities will review an application in its entirety at the time of confirmation before they decide whether to confirm the student's place or not. Some students, when they make applications through UCAS, will receive an unsuccessful decision. As I'm sure you're aware, this means that the application's been considered and they've decided not to offer a place on the course. Sometimes, and we do encourage providers to do this, they will give a reason as to why they've made the decision that they've made. Sometimes they won't, and it is frustrating. You know, I know that students put a lot of effort into decisions, and most providers are very good at, you know, explaining and articulating the reasons why a student hasn't been, you know, hasn't been made an offer. And I would suggest that if you have a student who's particularly unhappy about a decision, if you encourage them to contact that university directly, you know, they will potentially be able to give some more detailed advice. Students will receive decisions from different universities at different times after the submission of their application. But it's important to understand that there are deadlines by which universities have to make their decisions, but then also deadlines by which students have to respond to these decisions. The deadlines for decisions for universities, there are two deadlines. For the 2021 cycle, students who submitted their application on or before the 29th of January deadline, they will have until the 20th, or the universities will have until the 20th of May, so the 20th of May, to make a decision. If a decision isn't made by this point, we will reject the application by default. Students who submit an application after the 29th of January, the universities they apply to and colleges they apply to will have until the 13th of July to make a decision. It's worth just noting quickly here that UCAS has recently launched a new historic grades on entry tool. This displays the grades that students held when they were accepted onto courses between 2017 and 2019 application cycles. The aim of the tool is to help empower students make aspirational choices, especially in situations where perceived entry requirements might be out of reach for an individual student. Students don't always appreciate the nature of entry requirements and that they can be flexible, and that universities and colleges will consider other parts of the application as well as the entry requirements. So this tool is available for teachers and advisors only, for teachers and advisors at schools or colleges who are a UCAS registered centre. At the moment, we're asking you not to share the tool with your students, but you can use the tool as a way of encouraging students to you know, apply aspirationally. I think it's worth pointing out, as on the tool there will be a contextual information statement which explains kind of some of the decisions made, but it's worth remembering that entry requirements for courses change or can change year on year. But what you do is you input the university, the course, qualification, and then you'll be able to view entry requirements in a variety of different ways. What it's basically designed to do is help, as I said, aspiration, but also help compare university behaviour alongside your own judgment as a teacher and as advisor to support your students with their applications. As part of the decision-making process, some students might be required to attend an interview. If that's the case for your students, it will be communicated usually via UCAS Track, but not always, as I'm sure you do anyway, but to make sure you stress the importance to students of preparation before an interview, understanding, particularly at the moment, that interviews probably going to be conducted via either Teams or Skype, and it's important that students understand not only what the types of questions they're going to be asked, but the logistics for how they'll attend an interview and how they'll respond to the interview requests. So once your students are in a position to respond to offers, as I'm sure you're aware, they can make the following replies. So they can have a firm acceptance, insurance acceptance, and a decline. Students record their replies to their offers by logging into UCAS Track, or they can call the UCAS Customer Experience Centre and do it over the phone. However, I would recommend they do it via Track. So the firm choice then, just to reiterate or just to confirm exactly what it is, firm is the student's first choice. If they firmly accept an unconditional offer, they're effectively placing themselves at that provider. They are able to release themselves later into clearing if they would like to. If they firmly accept an unconditional offer, as I said, they cannot. They're not only are they placing themselves at that provider, but they will not be able to have an insurance choice either. If they firmly accept a conditional offer, then the place is theirs once the university or college is satisfied they've met the conditions of offer. Or in some cases, when students don't quite meet the conditions, they may be still accepted onto a course. If they choose to firmly accept a conditional offer, then they are able to choose an insurance choice. The insurance choice, this is their backup or second choice of university or college. It's important to stress students don't have to have an insurance choice if they don't want to. It's really important that students understand that once they select an insurance choice, if they miss out on their firm choice, they will get placed at their insurance choice if they meet the entry conditions for that. So it's important to be 100% sure that they'd be happy to end up placed with that insurance choice before selecting it on their application. The conditions of an insurance choice should really be lower or at least the same conditions as the offer of a firm choice. If the insurance conditions are higher than the firm conditions, it's likely that a student will be unsuccessful with both. And there's a link on the handout to supporting replies. I wanted to briefly mention about supporting students here when making their replies. Hopefully, students have got to this stage, they will have done detailed research. They'll understand the different choices on their application. They'll have a rough idea of their own preferences and their own kind of rank, I guess, of the universities and colleges they've applied to. Ultimately, it's a personal decision how students respond and how they make their replies. A couple of things to help them to kind of consider before recording their replies. Do they really want to go and study and live in this new town or city, potentially for 3, maybe even 4 years? Is the course really right for them? What accommodation options do they have? And also, really crucially, are the conditions of offer realistically achievable? So moving away from decisions and responding decisions, now going to talk to you briefly about UCAS Extra. Now, UCAS Extra is another option for students to use to get a place through UCAS. However, each year, less than 1% of all students placed through UCAS use Extra to secure their place. So Extra opens for the 2021 cycle, opened on the 25th of February, and it runs right through to the 4th of July. Essentially, Extra means or allows eligible students to be able to add another choice in track during this time period. It did open 2 weeks later than planned after the delay of the January the 15th deadline, moving it back to the 29th of January. Students can only use Extra if they have included 5 choices on their application, they've received decisions from all 5 and weren't accepted, or if they declined offers that they did receive. Students manage Extra, they can add their extra choice through track or by calling UCAS. Really important that students understand that if they are going to be applying to a new course, a new discipline, they're not able to edit or amend their personal statement, nor are you able as a teacher or advisor to edit their reference when they're using Extra. If students are planning on applying to new subjects through Extra, we recommend that they speak to their new choice and see if they would like them to send a new personal statement directly to them. Other things just to be aware of at the moment, students who come to you who maybe haven't submitted a UCAS application but are still considering going in 2021 are still able to submit an application with 5 choices right up until the 30th of June at 6 p.m. Students who have submitted the application within the last 14 days are still able to substitute their choices, but they are also able to substitute their replies once within 14 days of initially recording their replies. After the 14-day substitution window, students are still able to make reply swaps up until the 23rd of July. And to do this, well, they would need the permission of all of the involved universities and colleges, as well as UCAS. As a teacher and advisor, a couple of practical things you can be doing to support your students at the moment. Encourage them to keep their contact information up to date via track, especially their email address. Email is the primary way that UCAS and universities and colleges communicate with students. If students, for whatever reason, change their level 3 qualifications, maybe their exam details have, I know the exams have been cancelled, but the exam entry or the exam board details have changed, it's important that students let us know to confirm this. We at UCAS process the majority of UK level 3 exam results. We match these to UCAS applications. If we don't have the correct details, it can cause issues, so please do let us know. Any individual questions should be directed that a student has that you aren't able to answer. We encourage you to direct them directly to us using the contact details supplied on the handout which you'll get from today's session. Also, just wanted to briefly mention, if you haven't heard of these already, we are now running UCAS Discovery Days. These are available for students free of charge, replacing the traditional face-to-face UCAS exhibitions. Please do direct your students to them if you haven't done so already. Thank you very much. If you do have any questions, be very happy to receive emails. Our email address is training@ucas.ac.uk, or you can follow us on our social media channels to stay up to date with the latest developments. Thank you, best of luck, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.